this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I've put the camera in a different place, you probably won't notice, but it's actually into the grow room this time rather than just inside the door. The reason is I'm probably going to show quite a few plants and it stops them going from bright to dull. And the camera having to mess about. Well, that's a theory anyway. I haven't tried it before, but the camera's actually into the grow room now. So obviously I've got a limited space to back up. I haven't got as much room to back away from it now. So we'll give that a try. Funny weekend. Hannah should have been down this weekend, which probably would have meant there wasn't going to be a Sunday chat. But she phoned up and said that her cat has developed quite suddenly foul smelling breath, like horrible, smell it from the other side of the room when she's washing her paws, which she was really worried about because it came on quite suddenly. So unfortunately this particular cat is half feral, so if it doesn't want to be held, it's not going to be held and you're going to get ripped to shreds. It's still got that wild element in it. But basically she had a look and it had some really brown looking teeth as though they were rotten. So she took the cat to the vet to have a look, and they booked her in, and she went in Friday to have the treatment, and the poor thing's had 5 teeth out. So obviously Hannah didn't want to leave her cat because the cat has to have meds, antibiotics, so she needs to be there. So she's not down this weekend after all. She was worried to death about the cat not taking the tablets because there's no way she could hold it still to, and open its mouth. So luckily it's eating the tablets in its food and hasn't noticed them yet. Now my cat won't do that. One of my cats, if you put a tablet in its food, you go back 5 minutes later and the tablet's sat in the middle, all on its own. All the food's gone, tablet's still there. Clever little thing. Anyway, so that's why she's not down this weekend, which means hopefully she can come down next weekend. That's the theory. So no Hannah for Father's Day, which is unusual because we usually spend a weekend together on Father's Day. Not to worry. That's that. Right, I've often said that I have trouble sometimes thinking of things to film. Well, we've partially solved that problem now. I've joined up with the Care Collab team, which is run by Nina, Ninja Orchids. It's funny, I had visions of orchids all sort of dressed in black like that, hiding in the... No, apparently it's a... What's the expression? An acronym? It's initials, it means something. It's not ninjas as in, attack warriors in the dark. But yeah, I've joined up with that crew. I mean, the concept of that is very good. It's to sort of help along new, smaller channels by, giving them an option to join in with a set of videos, which I'm quite happy to do. I mean, I've promoted channels before in the past. Some of those are now, bigger, better channels that you know quite well. But, pardon me. Yeah, so I've joined in with that. I think the first one that I'm doing is on the 24th, but obviously it'll have the hashtag Care Collab in the main title. It's a brilliant idea and it seems to be going along quite nicely, but I received the list of all of the participating channels, and I'll say now, there's no way I'm subscribing to that lot. There's no way I'd have the time, and this I don't want to be sort of down about the whole thing, but potentially this will be its downfall, is that it gets too big and there are too many Care Collab videos come out on one day and people just won't watch them because they won't have time. I know some of them are nice and short, but no guarantee mine will be. You know me. But you know what I mean. If somebody allocates an hour or two to watching some videos, and there's 3 hours worth of Care Collab videos, they're not going to get watched. So luckily it's at plant level. So although there's a huge number of channels, they won't all have the same plant. So when a plant's selected, only the channels that have got that plant join in, if you see what I mean, and then only if they want to. So in theory, that will keep it small enough for it to carry on working, because it's working okay at the moment. So I'll give it a go. I can't think what the first one is that I'm joining in with. Laelia purpurata, I think it is, or Cattleya purpurata, I think. Anyway, the first one that I'm joining in with officially is the 24th. And then there's another one coming up that I'll be doing, which is a zygopetalum care video. So it's not a particular zygo, it's just zygos in general. So I'll be happy to have a go at that now that I've got more than one. Right. Anyway, so that's things to come. I'll be joining in with that. Got some nice emails through with, I won't say the rules, but the way it works. Obviously, everybody needs to comply to a degree to a set of, you know, the way things are going to be. Otherwise, it'll go all over the place. So I'm happy with the way it's run. It seems to be good. You know, you get the appropriate notification, you reply, you get the official date that it's going to happen, and it happens. You know, it's minimum contact with maximum effect. It's good stuff. So we'll be having a go at that as and when. I'm not going to be running any of them. I haven't got time to do all that sort of stuff, because although Nina is the one that sort of started it and is sort of overall in charge, others take charge of, they have a go now and again and become, you know, the person who does this one sort of thing. I won't be doing that. Just don't ask. I haven't got time, basically, to muck about with all the emails and stuff like that. But that's not part of the deal. Right, what I thought we'd have a look at today on the sort of things to come. So we'll have a look at some stuff that's sort of in bud. I've only got one. Have I only got one? I've only got one new bloom, which is, come out and fight. It is down here. There's a bit of a novelty in my grow space. Got a Miltonia opened. This is just a no ID hybrid in amongst all my species and primary crosses. But I got this in bloom quite a while back. It didn't have a brilliant set of roots, but we're working on that. We've got quite a few new roots getting down in the pot now, and that's starting to fill up the pot basically. We've got the new growth here, another new growth here, so that's two new growths on the go, and obviously this growth here has matured a not maximum size bulb, but big enough to put out a 3 bud spike, which is, that's not, you know, I mean, a well-grown Miltonia should be pushing up 6 or 7 blooms, you know, not 3. Or on some of my older ones before they got thrown out, 1. Anyway, it's an attractive bloom. It is slightly fragrant, but then we've got no sun today. There's no light or brightness or heat in here at the moment. So that's the only new bloom I've got at the moment. But the idea is to have a look at some things that are coming soon that haven't necessarily bloomed here before. So plants coming into bloom for the first time. We'll start up here. Now this one has bloomed here before, because this is one of Derek's plants, and it was in bloom when I walked in the greenhouse with Ken to sort of have a look and see what I fancied. The blooms on this was sticking up, you know, because it was one of the only large plants in amongst his sea of tiny little plants. So I picked that straight up. He said, "Oh, you like that, do you?" I said, "Yeah, I know what it is," whereas I didn't know what the others were. So Prosthetia, or whatever the hell it's called now, radiata. Got 2 spikes coming on this. That will fill this place with one of the strongest fragrances around. So we've got that to look forward to. And we've got a nice new growth starting down here. Got a feeling this might be 2 plants in here, but it came from Burnham's. So it may be 2 plants, I don't know until I get it out of the pot, and there's no rush to do that because it's in Burnham's bark. I don't think it's been in there that long. It looks like it's in good nick. So we've got no rush to repot that. So yeah, we've got that to come with its fragrance. And then next to that we've got one of Jeff's plants, and I've got no idea what this looks like, and I don't want to know. I'm waiting for it to bloom. Well, this is Encyclia lancifolia. We've got two nice spikes coming on this now. Oh, let's turn it around the right way. Yeah, so we've got two nice spikes coming there. And this looks like a large number of blooms as well, looking at the buds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 plus on this taller spike. And this one's only just started to sort of push its buds away from the spike. So I don't know what sort of show I'm going to get. I don't know how big the blooms get. So it's a wait and see. Not a good root system, but it's working on it. Yeah, we've got some roots coming down here and some more coming down here. So so far with the cocoa husk, or the cocoa husk mix, because a lot of the time I'm mixing it in with bark and charcoal, so far I can sort of just start to stick my neck out and say it does appear that roots are growing better with the cocoa husk added to the mix. And in some cases, like in the Miltoniopsis, they're in pure cocoa husk, some of those. So I'm still on the fence, but so far so good. So far nothing's failed, which is good. So that's that one. Right, this BC Makei, which is just effectively it's a virtually dead plant sat on some damp moss. Well, it's growing. That's a pathetic attempt, I must admit. And if it doesn't get some roots, then it's not going to make it. I'm quite honestly fed up with looking at it, but it doesn't get in my way at the moment. It sits on its damp moss, and it's not in the way. So that's the only reason it's still here, quite honestly. Plus the fact the blooms are really nice, you know, which is good. Right, coming over here. Can I get it out? Well, we're doing things to come, so I'm going to have to get it out, whether I wanted to or not. But I think I can lift it up over the top. It's right up the back, basically. Yeah. And this is my Victoria Regina with buds. Not in a place I was expecting them. I think we might get some hammering and stuff coming up now. The guy, Posty, Postman Pat next door, he's actually building like a patio table with attached benches from a kit. So there's lots of bolts and things like that, but they have to be hammered in, so we might get some banging. We'll wait and see. I mean, you can't complain about people working. That sort of noise is acceptable. People at work, you can put up with that. Right, so we got some blooms to come on there, and I would say that's in an unexpected place. Now, okay, that cane was on it when I got it. This is my cane over here, the tall one, which is still growing. So this is going to be a long cane, and it will fatten up as it ages, but they don't usually fatten up until they finish growing, and then they swell outwards. So they go lengthways and then push out sideways. But on the two older canes that have bloomed, there's no sign of any new buds on there. But we will have Victoria Regina buds again. I won't say soon, but in not too distant future. They're showing their colour. I'll get that one back where it goes. Everything has a place, and that's where it lives. Otherwise I lose track of things, you know, how much light they get and things like that. So I try and keep things in the same place until it's time to think about actually moving them for a reason. You know, then something else might have to move to, you know, it's like a chain reaction. Right, I need this one to go there, but there's something in the way. So that can go, oh, there's something in the way. Oh, everything moves round one. Out of all that lot up there, there's no spikes at all. We had a look at the two large Miltonias in the Miltonia feeding programme. So We've just recently looked at those. 4 spikes on both plants, so 4 new growths with a spike on each growth. That's good. We like that sort of thing. There's no spikes on any of the Tulumnias apart from the one that's in bloom. And I'll show you this because this is a very, very attractive Tulumnia. If I can get that to focus. These are very attractive blooms. Beautiful patterning and plenty of it, because a lot of the Tulumnia spotted varieties don't tend to have that many spots. Now this one's got lots, and lovely tinge of pink. Subtle, but a lovely tinge of pink. So yeah, that's a good one. You can stay. Some people have got a bit worried about Mr. Hairy, me included, having had to take it away from all of its manky moss and unmount it and remount it. But we do have root growth now, so I can pretty safely say that this little piece down here is going to die because it's aborted its new growth, but it may try again. It's only a tiny little piece, so I'm not particularly worried. That's why it was put down in that corner, because if it goes, it's not the end of the world. But this one here has started a new growth. This one's got a new growth here. This piece here has got 3 new growths on it, so that's going to do well, and that's the one that started root growth. And then this one down here has got new growth there. So I think it's going to be okay to a degree. We may lose a piece, but I think the other pieces are going to pull on. But it is relatively a slow grower, so it will be slow progress. I mean, hopefully we'll have some half-size canes possibly by the end of this year. Maybe, maybe not. Now I've got a cattleya right up the back that, well, I did say I'd get them out, didn't I? Oh. Never mind, at least there's something on the way. And the something on the way is the Irish mist, allegedly. Now this is the one, this plant is in a bit of a bad way because a slug got in the pot and chomped off all of the new roots from the latest growth. Literally, every single one. It just went round the top of the plant and chewed them all off. So it's lost its roots, which means it's struggling to maintain itself. So it's just a yellow leaf that needs coming off. And it's blooming on its reserves, which it hasn't got that many, unfortunately. So the plant is struggling, but I'm still going to let it bloom because the blooms are absolutely gorgeous. But what I will probably do is, once those blooms are actually produced, I'll try and induce it back into growth, which will give me some roots. And the only way to do that is to get rid of the blooms, basically. So I'm just a little worried that the base of this growth is wet. So I'm just taking these bracts off. These are wet, which could mean there's some rot setting in. So we'll get rid of those bracts so that there's air around the base of the bulb, and we'll see what happens. What we could do with this, some roots around the base of the bulb. But yeah, these will be open shortly, just starting to crack here. So these will open shortly. That'll be a nice splash of colour. There's nothing yellow in here. Oh, there's nothing yellow in here at the moment. Duh. Right, so I'm just trying to get into a place that is difficult because it means moving so many plants. But that's what we said we'd do. So that's my prima donna that's still a little bit wobbly. It's producing quite a good root system now, but it hasn't got down in the pot enough to stop it wobbling yet. Right, we're nearly there. There's 2 plants up in here I want to show. One's a cattleya. Actually, there's 2 cattleyas to see, come to think of it, because the wonky one this daft looking thing, which is a species, Harrisoniana. Harrisoniana, I always say that wrong. And it's always been a wonky looking plant, but this latest growth was really wonky to an extent it's even twisted. Twisted as in its overall shape and its structure. But up in here are buds. Believe it or not, there are buds swelling up in there. So it's actually going to it's going to bloom. Now, I had an alarm went off in here this morning, first time ever. Well, first time I've heard it. I think if it went off in the middle of the night, I'd hear it because I sleep lightly. But it was basically the humidistat had reached 100%. And you can't turn the alarm off. It has to have a setting. So I thought, well, if I set it to 100, it will never get to 100, will it? Well, it did. And what's happened is watered the mounts, water all over the floor, summertime, and the temperature dropped. We're having a bit of a cool period at the moment, so you drop the temperature down, humidity rises, and everything in here was wet. Because we didn't have the heat yesterday. My mounts are still quite wet from yesterday. So we did actually set the alarm off. Now it's come down to 87 it says now, and that's because this door's wide open, so the air is changing with the with the lounge. Anyway, so the Harrisoniana is going to bloom, but what I was going to say, this is a humidity thing, because the sheath has got a sealed top and the air is very damp in here, and it doesn't look like we're going to get much sunshine for a while, so everything is going to stay damp and cool. Not good. And that's the sort of time a sheath can actually rot. So I'm going to cut the sheath. I've just cut the top off, and that will let the air into it, because the buds are quite large now. You shouldn't do that until you can see the buds properly, and that allows some air to circulate in that sheath, and it'll stop it staying damp, because that could rot the buds. Because in its natural environment, it would not get 100% humidity at whatever it was at that particular time. It was about 18 degrees in here. I actually popped the heater on to actually bring it up to 21, which helps with the humidity. Anyway, so that's that one done. That's not the one I was after, though. The one I was after is this one, which has got a strange name. Some of those old leaves are going now. They're on the tiny little bulb, because this has been grown on, so it's on the oldest little tiny bulb. And this is a Caulocatlia Chantilly lace twinkle, as in that, if it will focus on it, just about. So that's what it is. And when I potted this, I potted it over to the side because the new growths looked like they were going to head across the pot. Well, luckily they are. But we've got a nice spike on one of the previous new growths. So we will have blooms on that in the not too distant future. Running out of places to put stuff now, because I've got one more to bring over here. And this is a one that we've discussed at length on several occasions, because it behaves strangely. And it's a nobly type dendrobium, and it's what did I call it? Sweet Pinky Momoko. Now this was bought in bloom in the middle of summer at Burnham's, and it's behaved strangely ever since I've got it. I was hoping that by this year it would have settled down into a normal blooming routine, and when the buds started to come at the beginning of the year here, I thought, oh, good stuff. But then last year's really big growths round here didn't bloom, so I thought, oh, perhaps they're going to wait till that time next year. Nope, they've decided to bloom now, but they're only blooming at the top of the cane. So I think this is going to repeat the same function again. It's going to bloom at the top of the cane now, and then it will push out some more lower down on those canes next year in the spring. But anyway, we've got buds coming on there, so we're going to have a nobly in bloom. That's got to be at least a month away, I'd have said. Which, you know, takes it into the middle of summer basically. So yeah, so then very attractive blooms. I mean, you know, if it's going to bloom strangely as far as the seasons are concerned, well, it still blooms, isn't it? We have what's going basically. So now I've got to rearrange this, put this shelf back how it goes. That's a very, very tall, top-heavy plant, that one. I have to handle it carefully. If I lean the pot over too much, the weight of the plant will probably pull the whole thing out of the pot, so I have to be very careful with that one. And that's, where did the Chantilly lace go? There it is. Yeah, that's also got two stonking new growths pushing up on it, that, which you may have seen. I didn't point them out, but they're there. And they're about 7 inches long, something like that, 7-8 inches long. So they're coming on nicely. They'll finish growing this year, but that doesn't mean to say they're going to bloom in the spring. Not by the way it's behaving at the moment. Right, no spike on you yet. No. Unfortunately, I don't expect that one to bloom. That's the one that split a pseudo bulb. They actually produced a growth in 2 parts, which have gone on to grow, but they haven't grown well. They've developed slowly, not very well at all. So if ever I pick up leaves that have got, plants that have got leaves that need pulling off, I do it while I've got it in my hand, basically. Right, that one has to go somewhere where it can lean on something. Otherwise, it'll fall out the pot. But it's growing its roots now. It'll come on. It'll be okay eventually. This is my Lodogesiae kikis, some of which have started into reasonable growth and others haven't. This is lots of little pieces, lots of kikis, if you see what I mean. The mother plant went to somebody else and I just kept the kikis. Well, a couple of them are starting to come into reasonable growth now. They're not going to produce full-length canes this season, far from it, but what I want them to do is root. And we do have little roots showing around the edge of the moss now. So we've got roots, that's what I'm after. There's root systems under these little kikis. This little one here, that's got roots growing now, as has this one. So effectively growing that are going to survive and do okay. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this bit down here doesn't look too clever, so that bit might not grow. It doesn't look too clever, but this one's pushing out a couple. There's a new one there as well. So 7 or 8 growing points. If we can get those a good few inches long, if we can get them up to sort of 5 or 6 inches this season, that'll be brilliant, because then next year they really will grow. So that's a wait and see. But it's the only mount. I'm growing this flat. For this particular dendrobium, that's more natural than that, because they are often found growing down on rocks and down on the ground, not necessarily in the ground, on it, and they form a mound and head off in different directions because the canes grow up, produce a kiki, and the weight of the kiki pulls them down in the kiki roots, and then it sets off again. So they can actually make quite a large mound. So I'm trying to grow that one flat, just to see how it does, you know, see if it does any better than anything else. Yeah, that's about it as far as spikes and stuff are concerned. There's no other cattleyas with spikes on. As I said, a lot of the cattleyas are in a bad way. But we will be doing the part 3 of update 1 of the project orchids, which is the cattleyas. And out of the 4 parts, the cattleyas have got some of the worst plants in. It just went that way. So there's a lot of work to do on those plants to see any real progress. But the progress is hopefully starting. That's all I was interested in. When I get a plant goes down that bad, all I want really is a new growth on a cattleya, because it will then produce some roots. So that's that. Yeah, so sort of things are doing okay. Derek's plants are all surviving. I haven't lost one yet. Just wait till, well, I was going to say let's wait till the winter before we get too cocky, but most of those are odonts or odont based type plants, and they like to be cool. So this Irish mist, I'm not actually going to put that back. That's because that's going to open in the next day or two. I'll keep it down here with the display plants. Keep that down here. But we don't want that leaf all across my pinguicula. That's got a job to do. Okay, so that's the sort of a few things to come. I don't think there's no other spikes anywhere. There should be the Regnellii, the other big Miltonia. That should start pushing some spikes up soon. I bet if I look closely I could probably see one now. Oh, well, let's do it. Let's have a look. Let's see. Seem to have gained rather a large number of Oncidium types over the last year and some of this year. Catching up with my Dendrobiums. Right, well that's the biggest new growth there. Nope, no spikes yet. Well, the new growths are pushing on nicely. I mean, it's no worries about it blooming. It should bloom. The reason why? Oh no, that's just a bract. No, no spikes yet. Oh, well, worth a look. I mean, it's a good plant. It's growing on nicely. That came from Burnham's. That came from Burnham's as quite a large plant. Ate a little bit more. In amongst those on the shelf were some much smaller versions, but for £5 more you got a much bigger mature plant, and for me that just made sense. You know, it was in bloom at the time, so we've had the blooms on that. Now all we've got to do is get some more. It's nice to buy plants in bloom and come home with the blooms. It's the way most people like to work. But if it's a plant that you know the blooms well and you've been after a while, buying it out of bloom shouldn't be a problem because you know what's coming. You know what to expect. It's not like an unknown. Unlike a lot of, well, most of Derek's plants are really unusual crosses. You know, you've got a job to even find them on the internet, let alone find out what the blooms are going to look like, and they're a long way off blooming. So we won't be getting any blooms from there. Yes, so that'll do for today. This up here should be producing some spikes soon, but so far it's not doing it. This is my only little bulbophyllum. It's a tiny little species, Pulmilio I think it is. Did pop-ups. But I mean, there's an old spike there. They're not large, and they're not large blooms, but they're the sort of blooms like the Elizabeth Ann Bucklebury, you know, like a upside down hand. There's no sign of any spikes on here yet. At least I can't see any. Nope. But it should be due to bloom soon. You know, its latest growths are maturing. The spike should come out behind that growth. Well, we'll have to wait and see, but it's not doing it yet. Just wondering whether it's getting enough light. Most bulbophyllums are not high light plants, so it's not normally a light thing. But yeah, we shall see. So that'll do for today, I think. And as I said, Hannah hopefully will be able to come down next weekend, but that will be totally dependent on how she feels about leaving her cat. You know, depends how poorly it is. Obviously, when you have, you know, any form of surgery type stuff, you get pumped full of antibiotics. Providing the cat's getting them, then that should work okay, obviously. As I say, if it was my fluffy cat, then he'd have to go back to the vet every day and have an injection. And you can get him to take tablets. And you can't hide him in his food, he knows. I've even tried a real fishy wet food, very strong smelling fishy one, and crushed the tablet down into an absolute fine powder and stirred it in. He went up, sniffed it, turned around and walked away and didn't have any breakfast. He just knows. But yeah, Hannah's cat is half feral, so it's got that wildness about it. She said it spent most of Saturday hiding behind the sofa. It only came out a few times, but she's eating. That's the main thing with cats. If they stop eating, you've got a problem. Or they've got a problem, which is then your problem, obviously. So hopefully that will be sorted by next weekend. But I don't want her coming down here and being down here worried about the cat all weekend. I'd rather she didn't come. We can leave it and do it another time. So we shall see. And yeah, I'll see you next time. I'm still open to suggestions for videos. I haven't got much of a stockpile of ideas at the moment, but as I said, adding in this care collab, I don't know how frequently they come round, but how frequently they come round is not, it doesn't mean that that's the frequency I'll get involved, because I might not have the plant they're doing this time. You only join in if you have the plant that's been chosen, so we shall see. But I have got one of those coming up soon. And for those of you who need to know such things, it's the summer solstice tomorrow, 21st. So that's our longest day, 2 shortest nights, one either side. And then the days will start getting shorter, but we won't notice that for a month. 4 to 5 weeks, and then you'll just, one evening, you'll be sitting there thinking, God, I have to turn the flipping light on, it's getting real dark in here. Happens every single year. And the English people just, they seem so surprised. God, the nights are drawing in, aren't they? Yeah, it does it every year. For goodness sake, get a grip. Yeah. It's the same as in the spring, you know. Days are getting noticeably longer, aren't they? Yes, it happens every year. But weather changes an awful lot in the UK, and some would say there's not much else happens, so it's all we've got to talk about. Maybe that's true, I don't know. The way the politics is going at the moment, there's a lot of conversation about that. Do you know, this is something that gets me. People, there's a Newswatch programme that discusses, people write in and whatever, do little video clips about the news and complain about it, or say what should be done and what they didn't like, and all that sort of stuff. Well, what I didn't like was the main news came on. These are the headlines. This is BBC World News, and the main headline was a football match. Not the riot or the mess that happened afterwards, the football match. That is not headline news. There's plenty of other stuff going on in the world that is headline news, and that ain't it. That is sport. It goes in the sport section. You can tell I don't like football, and I don't. I'm not heavily into sport as a spectator, and I can't really do it anymore. So I've got out of all that sort of stuff. I used to get involved a lot, but I don't anymore. I'll watch some decent quality tennis, and I like some rugby at the high level, like Six Nations, World Cup, that sort of thing. But there's not much other sport I will watch on the TV. A lot of it's just like watching paint dry, like cricket. They're all stood round like, that's not sport, that's wandering about in a field. Anyway, I'm biased. I like watching athletics as well, and I love the skiing in the winter, and I'll join in once the Olympics goes. That's going to be a television event this time round, isn't it? Nobody's allowed to go there. Not quite sure how the athletes must feel about that without a crowd, but that's how it is. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, I believe. Yes, that's plenty long enough for a Sunday waffle. And as again, any ideas, stick them in a comment. I'm not guaranteeing you'll get your video, but If you don't stick it in the comment, I don't know, and if I don't know, I can't at least think about it, can I? So see what you can come up with. I have got some things in the pipeline that I will do. Some of those are from older suggestions that just didn't come round at the time, but we'll do that. And I hope you don't mind me asking, but I like to feel the channel is for us. It's not just for me. So you should get some of the things you'd like to see. You know, not just me saying this is what you're going to get all the time. I like to feel that you can put the suggestions in and at least some of them will get done. Some of them are not practical. Some of them are physically impossible. Naughty. Anyway, thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Bye for now. Jokes. I keep forgetting to put the short jokes on the end. Right, so you can have two. Only silly little jokes. Right, it's a guy got a job on a farm. Never worked on a farm before or anything like that. And the farmer said to him, I've got 68 sheep out there. I'd like you to round them up. So he said 70. Yes, you might have to think about that one. And the other one is, this one I did like a lot. If ever you get chased by a police dog, whatever you do, don't run through a tunnel, run up the seesaw and down the other side, run up the ladder and down the slide, and jump through a ring of fire, because they're trained for that.